The three main religions. The first one is Protestant. Protestant Christianity is a branch from the Catholic Church, which came around in the 16th century when some believers broke from the church. When these believers, Martin Luther and his followers, created a new form of Christianism, a lot of people from the German Empire followed this new form and started a debate between the Pope, Emperor, and Catholic government on one side and the members of the new church on the other. This debate covered all of Europe and beyond. This religion became known as the Protestant because they protested for the freedom of religion when the emperor decided to cancel recess of free religion. Much war was inflicted on this debate, including the 30-Year War, which contained lots of bloodshed. Since this religion was a branch from the new form of Christianity, it is why Protestantism still has a closer resemblance to Catholicism in certain traditions and practices. The only spiritual authority was the sacred text, which was the Bible alone. This religion only believed that there were two sacraments, baptism and communion.
Catholicism and Protestantism comparing in 1986 to 2012. In 1986, there was 81% and 1%, and then there was 75% and 1%, 67% and 2%, 69% and 2%, 64% 0.3%, and 1.9%, 64% and 2.1%, 64% and 3%, and 56% and 3%. For the Catholics, numerous Catholics who lived in England were not satisfied with Elizabeth's arrangements. They had enjoyed the freedom they acquired during Elizabeth's sister's reign, Queen Mary, and were now required to change or retract their beliefs. Many people could not make this compromise, so they were forced to leave their country to live in another one. Others reluctantly accepted the new changes. Elizabeth had been taught to be a Protestant. It was unexpected that she reversed the religious decisions of Mary, putting aside Catholicism. If the Protestants did not change their religious beliefs, they would be abused or even executed. For their own safety, many people took off as the Protestant state in Europe. In the first century, when people started teaching Catholicism around the world, people began to be more and more Catholic.
The third one is Jewish. There weren't many Jews in England. A couple hundred were living, but practiced their religion secretly. And many of those who were born in the Jewish religion either converted to Christianity or pretended to already have. A lot of people in the Elizabethan era disliked Jews because they thought they were associated with the witches since they celebrated Sabbath and the witches were on their Sabbath. Most thought that Jews were all family because they all resembled one another and thought that Jews were taking over the jobs of Christians. The Elizabethan emperor reform included Christian Kabbalah as a step to the Elizabethan cult to make it easier for Jews to become the country's religion. Elizabethan people believed in all sorts of stereotypes about Jews, such as long hooked noses and dark-hued complexions, that they worship the devil, that they obtain supernatural powers obtained from the devil, and are associated with witches, and are responsible for the bubonic plague or Black Death among Christians.
Religions in the everyday life. During the Elizabethan era, people began to have the abilities to read and write more. Therefore, schools began to gain more popularity. The first schoolings were taught at home, then progressively through petty schools and grammar schools and universities. Usually, petty and grammar schools were taught in a very formal way. In these schools, they tended to focus more on reading and writing in Latin, history, and reading the Bible, since their main religion was Catholicism. Many people were financed by their local association of craftsmen with reasonable power. Schools also taught the reigning king or queen's beliefs. The religions were also influenced by what the king or queens believed in and didn't. Although these schools had these favorite religions that would be taught in school, if you did not perform these religions, then it would be effectuate to a high risk of endangerment, captivity, abuse, torture, or death.
Freedom of religion and the monarchy. When Elizabeth took the reign in 1558, England had been battling between both religions, Protestantism and Catholicism. It all started when her father, King Henry VIII, broke from the Roman Catholic Church to become Protestant so he could divorce his first wife. Afterwards, his son, when he reigned, the country kept its religion. But when Mary I became queen, she had returned England to the Roman Catholic religion. She would punish any person practicing the Protestant religion by burning them, which gave her the nickname Bloody Mary. Shortly after Elizabeth took the reign, the country was divided in two sections. In the south were Protestants and in the north were Catholics. Elizabeth decided to set a rule that Catholics couldn't worship openly. Some who were wealthy would worship secretly at home, but were scared that many people will sell them out to the queen.
William Shakespeare's beliefs and religions. William Shakespeare practiced the Protestant religion, despite the fact that many people have argued about how he might have had connections with school teachers and families that believed in Roman Catholicism. That made people believe he was secretly a Catholic but wouldn't admit it since it wasn't the favored religion at the time, but the majority of people still practiced it anyways. He was baptized, married, and had kids who had been baptized as well. Protestants did believe that getting baptized was an act of obedience to God and a sign of loyalty to Him. William Shakespeare and the people in his time believed hell was a real place and the devil was a specific person.
Catholics threatened the queen. Many Catholics were not happy with Elizabeth's settlement. They had enjoyed it when Queen Mary was in reign, since they could practice their religion openly. They were asked to change their beliefs or deny them, so some went into exile abroad, which means another country, and others accepted the new regime unwillingly. A fear of Catholic plots was going on, and the queen was getting somewhat scared. France and Spain had powerful rulers who practiced the Catholic religion. The Pope would encourage plots against Elizabeth and send Catholic priests on missions to convert some of the English men and women back to the Roman Catholic religion. But if they were caught by Elizabeth's agents, they would be sentenced to death for treason. But there were four main plots that were against the queen. The first one was the Northern Earls' Rebellion, then the Ridolfi plot, afterwards the Throckmorton plot, and finally the Babington plot. She all took care of them by killing loads of people in the process, and even some of her men.
Beliefs in Elizabethan England and beyond. During the Elizabethan era, people would blame inexplicable events on the work of witches who were mostly accused to be women. When the deadly outbreak of the Black Death took place, people also blamed it on witches. If there was a plague in your village, it was caused by a witch. When things got out of hand in 1562, Queen Elizabeth passed a law leading to the forbidding of witch hunts. Racism was also involved in these situations, since white witches were mostly considered as good and were seen as a help to their community and known for healing. Although black witches were seen as people who practiced secret, forbidden art in order to hurt people and make them suffer. Witchcraft and witches ended up coming to an end since people were getting more and more knowledge and were able to prove these theories wrong. It already did not exist, and it was proved. They also realized that burning people with suspicions of being a witch was a crime against humanity. There was also a lot of Elizabethan superstitions, and they came from their fear of witches and witchcraft. Some of the many superstitions included shoes on a table, the spilling of salt or pepper, and crossing a black cat on your path, and these were all considered as bad luck. The fear of supernatural and fear of the forces of nature or God ended up causing superstition. If anyone had a wound or cut, they would usually treat it with vinegar because they believed it would kill the disease.
In this time, there were many superstitions that many individuals believed to be true. The nobility up to the monarchy said that these superstitions were true, such as if you sneeze and open your mouth, it would allow the devil to come and enter your body. This is why we now say bless you after we sneeze, because most commoners thought that if you were blessed by a Catholic, no devil would be able to stay. There was also another superstition that involved the seventh son of the seventh was believed to have supernatural powers. Also, if you touched someone before they died, it was considered good luck for many. Most commoners believed in fate determined by the stars and God before they even were born. There was never coincidence in the Elizabethan era. Everything was already planned and predetermined. It was also the wheel of fortune that most individuals believed to have an effect on their lives. This wheel was created by the Roman goddess Fortuna. It was said that it controlled the fates and lives of people just by spinning the wheel. It could make wealthy people that had a lot and be brought down by just one spin. They accepted the misfortune, the pain, and the death.
In the Elizabethan era, people hardly married for love. Their marriage depended on social status and money. Young men and women never had a say in their marriage. It was also planned a marriage between the parents or of the two families. Legal age to marry at the time was 12 years old for women and 14-year-old for men, but many waited to get married till they were in their 20s.
In 1558, Elizabeth I is crowned queen. In 1559, the treaty was signed by England and France to be in peace to end the war. In 1560, the Treaty of Edinburgh was signed. In 1563, the Statute of Artificers Act of Parliament of England to help residents. In 1566, the Dutch revolt was made to restructure the Dutch government since the church displeased both Dutch Catholics and the Protestants. In 1568, the Gourney's loan, the Queen seizes money that was supposedly owned by Spain, but really was owned by Italian bankers. It was supposed to be a payment to the Spain soldiers.
In 1569, revolts of the Northern Earls, the two Catholic families, the Percys and the Nevilles, gained forces to go in the fortress with over 4,500 men to destroy the English Bible and Protestant communion table. In 1571, Rodolphi plot. Roberto Rodolphi was a spy of the Pope who plotted an invasion into England, which involved the killing of Queen Elizabeth. In 1572, Vagabonds Act, a new law explained that if found, vagrants would be whipped, and if found a second time, they would be imprisoned. If found a third time, they would be executed. All this to limit homelessness and the begging of criminal activity. In 1574, Catholic priests were smuggled into England. In 1576, Spanish forces revolted since they hadn't been paid by the bankrupt Spanish government. And in 1577 to 1580, Francis Drake navigates the world. Drake was the first English person to achieve this.
In 1581, a marriage treaty was signed between Queen Elizabeth with the Duke of Anjou. In 1582, 18-year-old William Shakespeare and 26-year-old Anne Hathaway paid a £40 bond for the marriage license. In 1583, Sir Humphrey Gilbert claims Newfoundland for England, then he dies at sea. In 1584, Francis Duke of Anjou dies. To 1585 to 1604, the war between England and Spain exploded due to many conflicts surrounding the wealth and power gained from trading in the New World and the difference in religions. In 1586, the Babington Plot was discovered. Everyone thought Mary Queen of Scots was involved with the plot. Queen Elizabeth and James VI signed the Treaty of Berwick.
In 1587, Drake destroyed the Spanish fleet at Cadiz. Virginia Dare was the first English born in North America. In 1588, the Spanish Armada of 132 ships were defeated by the English of 34 ships and 163 armed merchant vessels. In 1589, there was trafficking of slaves between England and Africa's Guinea coast. And in 1583, theaters are closed due to the bubonic plague. People who refuse to go to the churches of England services have been proposed to be punished. If you attend Catholic services, it is a crime.
In 1598, Tyrone Rebellion happens in Ireland. In 1599, the Globe Theatre is built in London. In 1603, Queen Elizabeth dies, and James VI of Scotland becomes king. Most people thought these events were caused by switches and conflicts between religion.
As we may know, there are differences and similarities in religions and beliefs from the Elizabethan era and today's modern age, such as Elizabethan illnesses were similar to modern-day illnesses. Around the same religions were practiced as before. We consume about the same food. The Elizabethans' upper class expressed their wealth with their clothing, similar to today. We are following high fashion trends, and actors face judgment of the public.
Some of the differences are that medicine in this era was simple and basic, because doctors did not know what caused illnesses. These days, people are very precise with different medicine and illnesses. We aren't strict on practicing your own religion like in the Elizabethan era. We have many differences in beliefs. Laws gave men power over women. Nowadays, we are treated as equals. Theater used to be looked at as a sin. Now we look at it as an enjoyment. The lifespan has changed for both men and women, and in the modern age, we are living much longer.